Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to the session of Meezan lecture series. Today will be the last lecture of this series. As you know, this series actually covers the contents of Meezan, which is Ustaz Javed Ahmad Ghamidi's understanding of Islam itself. It has spanned over more than 50 sessions, and today will be the last session. And this last session has been actually a leaf out of a topic that we have started earlier on, and that is belief in God. So we have understood this earlier on, that contrary to the person and the being of God, it is God's attributes which can be comprehended to some extent by a human being. So in order to have an understanding of who God is, it's not his person or his being that we can have knowledge of, because God has uh, told us very explicitly, "Laysa kamithlihi shay," that he is incomparable. He cannot be in any way compared to anything that human mind has ever envisaged. So today we'll be speaking about the attributes of God and how these attributes have been spread in the Quran and how they make us so well connected with God. And you will see, as I think you have already seen this in your readings of the Quran, that many verses of the Quran, they end on his attributes. And these attributes are not just there for rhyme or just as an ending that might earn reward or benefit. They have a special relation to the verse itself. Aziz, Hakim, Jabbar, Quddus. So all these names, they occur with a very, very special purpose. Now, the reason that God's being has not been of comprehensible to human beings is that there is nothing that can be compared to him. However, God has granted human beings some portion of his knowledge, power, providence, wisdom, and mercy. And thus we can analogously have some idea of the attributes of God. It is precisely to this aspect when the Bible spoke of in the book of Genesis. It's the book of Torah, the first book of the Torah, the Pentateuch, which says that I created man in my own image. So this is something which tells us that human beings are created with attributes which are similar to God, although they are minuscule, they are very, very minute in relation to God's attributes. Thus, if God is merciful, or if he is wise, or if he is just, human beings also have these faculties, they have these traits, although in a very, very small manner and a very minute or minuscule manner as compared to God. And the reason is that we are able to understand God through these attributes. Because we have mercy in ourselves, we can have an idea of the infinite mercy of God. This aspect can also be understood by saying that human beings are passive in nature. The Quran has used words for action which emanates from God to create a man's being. So these words, for example, if you look at the Quran, are irada, when the Quran says arada shay'an, when God wills something. So irada is intention. Then we have qawl, which is utterance. We have the word mashia, which means his will. We have the word kalima, which is his word. And we also have the word amr, which means the situation or the state of affairs. Now, the reality of a thing is this mashiyat, this intention of God, and a shay is called a shay because of it, because it is God's mashiyah. The attributes which manifest in a thing are in reality the attributes of this word. The reality of man's being is also the same. Also, he possesses an awareness of his being, and so is able to comprehend to some extent the attributes of his creator, which we just referred to earlier on. However, it is essential for this that a person keep his intellect alive, and that he, under the guidance of divine revelation, keep reflecting on the signs of God within him and around him. So remember, the signs of God, they are spread all around us, and of course they are spread within us. We have our own microcosm inside of us, and we have the macrocosm outside of us. The Quran has repeatedly called its addressees to reflect, deliberate, and ponder. And it has used three very specific terms: ta'aqqul, tafakkur, and tazakkur. And ta'aqqul, tafakkur, and tazakkur, all of them have a very special import in the jargon of the Quran, in the terminology of the Quran, and there are various aspects of pondering and reflecting over the Quran. So if we take the first of these, which is ta'aqqul. So ta'aqqul is that a person should neither be guided merely by his desires, impulses, and emotions, nor should he give himself up to superstitions and myths. On the other hand, he should be guided by the intellect God has bestowed on him and must trust the guidance it provides. So, dear viewers, the akul, of course, something that emanates from akal. Akal is the intellect that we have. This is the real substance, and this is the real thing which makes human beings have a degree of superiority on other beings that are visible to human beings. So, although we are not very well aware of the composition and the nature of how the jinn, which are of course a parallel creation of God, but as far as human beings are concerned, the aql is something which makes us realize that we have to use our aql, our intellect, to understand the message of God. The message of God is something that can be understood on the basis of reasoning, on the basis of arguments. And that is why the Quran addresses the aql. It addresses the faculty of intellect that a human being has. It does not uh, address, as people might think, the faculty of emotions. It's through emotions, yes, that we must act after understanding through our akal or intellect. The second term which the Quran uses a lot in this regard is tafakkur. Now, this means that one should prudently deliberate on the decrees and laws of this universe and on the requisites and requirements of human nature and acknowledge with full sincerity the principles that govern his life, which are derived from these decrees and laws. So, tafakkur means that he deliberates on the laws of nature and on the requisites and requirements of human nature. So, if we, of course, deliberate on the decrees and laws of the universe, that is how science comes into being. And if we deliberate on the requisites and requirements of human nature and we acknowledge them with full and sincerity, that is how the cognition of a human mind it works. It is how it can be understood. The third thing which we just referred to earlier on is tazakkur. Now, tazakkur, as you can see from the very word tazakkur, it means that the self evident truths in which a person believes should be remembered by him even during the upheaval in his emotions and desires, and then without any hesitation accept the obvious consequences. So, tazakkur basically is to remind ourselves of things which are universally accepted by us, but at times, because of our uh, emotions, desires, vested interests, a sudden rush of blood, fury, rage, we tend to forget them. So we have to always come back to that normal situation, the normative line in which the zakkur, which means to remember and always keep in mind those self-evident truths, truths for which we don't need any argument, like the fact that justice is something that has to be maintained, or the fact that dishonesty is something that must be condemned. So these are self evident truths about which at times we deviate, and it is through tazakkur that we realize this. So now, if one reflects on one's surroundings and on, of course, the world which is found within a person, everything bears testimony that God is not merely the first cause and an eternal entity. It's not just a first cause. He is, in fact, a being who has intention and knowledge and has all noble attributes. Now, this is a little bit of philosophical discussion that we might be having at this instance, because this is how a lot of philosophers, a lot of contemporary thinkers have taken to, that they think that God is the first cause, which he has produced something, and now things are progressing on their own. And yes, this is something which has made God something subtracted from the whole working of this universe and from the connection with his creation. So he is in fact a being who has intention and has knowledge and has these attributes that we'll be discussing. So, Ustaz Ghamidi has actually tried to summarize these aspects in the form of points, which I'll try to explain in the manner that we are able to go through this discussion in a simpler way. So, the first thing that he says is that matter does not have the faculty of intention. Matter does not have the faculty of intention. It does not also has any knowledge and intellect. Similarly, the intention and intellect and other potentials of the soul cannot be its own because it is plagued with weakness, short memory, and a weak will. But since from both matter and soul, great benefits and remarkable phenomena are produced, which cannot result from a power which is blind and deaf, Both are creations, and every creation requires a creator. Now, this is the point we have to understand, that matter and soul, these are the two substances that we have in this universe, and none of them possesses knowledge and intellect, none of them has intention, and none of them on their own can progress, because it is plagued with weakness and short memory and all sorts of shortcomings. But since from both matter and soul, great benefits are derived, and remarkable phenomena are produced. And this actually shows that it cannot be the result from a power which is blind and deaf, because there is so immaculate symmetry and evenness and equilibrium, that we know that both are creations and every creation requires a creator. So, in other words, matter and soul, they are creations. They are they're not something which have intention and intellect. It is to this that the Quran has pointed out by the words. If you look at the Quranic verse, "Am khuliqu min ghayri shay'in am humul khaliqun am khalaqus samawati wal ard bal la yuqinun." Ask them, if they do not believe in the hereafter, then were they created without a creator, or were they their own creators? Have they created the heavens and the earth? No, this is not so. This is not the case. In fact, they do not have conviction. So remember, this is something of a basic thing that we must keep in mind. And similarly, the Quran has also said, "Zalikumullahu rabbukum khaliqu kulli shay la ilaha illahu fa anna tu'fakun." Such is God your Lord, the creator of everything. There is no God but Him. Where then can you turn away from Him? So this is what we have to understand, that as far as matter is concerned, as far as the soul is concerned, these two, they are created entities and they are not self-created. This is the first point that we have to understand in this discussion of the attributes of God, because of course people who think that God is the first cause, then they take a different line in a different direction in this regard. The second point which Ustaz Ghamidi has raised in this regard is that the creator of the heavens and the earth, it is self-evident that he is self-sufficient and he does not require anyone to help him. There is only one cause of creation, and that is his intention of mercy. So it's not that he needed to create people. It is not a need that can be expressed in any way. There is just one cause of creating human beings or all creation, and that is his intention of mercy. When he desired to bestow his favor, he created this world and blessed his creation with innumerable favors that cannot be counted. Thus, as his name is Allah, which is his personal name, it is also a Rahman, which actually is a manifestation. It reflects his immense mercy. And thus the Quran says, I'm just going to read the translation. These are the first 13 verses of Surah Rahman. "The merciful has taught the Quran because he has created man, taught him speech. You want a sign? So observe that the sun and the moon pursue their ordered course, and the stars and the trees all bow down in adoration. And he raised high the sky and placed the balance in it, so that you too, in your circle of authority, should not transgress that balance, and weigh justly, and do not measure less. And he laid out the earth for his creatures. In it are fruits and date palms, whose fruits are in coverings, and chaff covered grain, and scented flowers also. Then, O jinn and men, which of your Lord's majesties will you deny?" So it makes this point that basically it is the merciful God who has taught the Quran, who is in contention in this regard. Therefore, the only purpose of creating human beings is for the manifestation of God's mercy. This is the second point. The third point, dear viewers, that is also essential to gauge in order to understand the attributes of God is that knowledge is nothing but the knowledge of hidden potentials. Knowledge is nothing but the knowledge of hidden potentials. So every knowledge bears witness to these potentials. If these potentials are not from a being who can perceive and can exercise his will, then they should be mere coercion. However, the organization found in this world and its deep meaningfulness, they refute this. None of these can be without exercising knowledge and intellect. Thus, the Creator is not merely powerful, He is knowledgeable and wise too. So, viewers, this is another point that has to be understood. The third point, that knowledge is actually the knowledge of hidden potentials. And every knowledge bears witness, or every piece of knowledge bears witness to these potentials. It is these potentials, if they are not from a being who can perceive and can exercise his will, if they are, these potentials, they don't come from him, then of course they would be mere coercion. But the organization found in this world and the purposefulness that is found around it and within it, it refutes this notion. And none of these can be without exercising knowledge and intellect. And this is something, again, to which the Quran has alluded in a very, very meaningful way. So it says, ask them, do you disbelieve in him and associate partners with him who created the earth in 2 days? The Lord of the universe is he, and set on the earth mountains from high above it, and placed his blessings in it, and equally for all needy provided it with its sustenance. All this in 4 days. Then he turned towards the sky, which had come into existence with the earth, and which at that time was in the form of smoke. So he said to it and to the earth, obey the directive willingly or unwillingly. Both said, we come forth willingly. Then he decided to make them 7 heavens in 2 days, and to each heaven he assigned its law. And we decked this lowest heaven of yours with brilliant stars and made it fully secure. And this is the design of the Mighty One. This is the design of the Mighty One, the All Knowing. Clearly, viewers, we can understand from this that as far as God is concerned, these are the things that have to be understood in a very, very explicit way. That this force that has come into being cannot be coercive. It's not blind. It is organized in the form of such unbelieving and immaculate symmetry that we find deep meaningfulness. And this deep meaningfulness actually refutes the fact that this force could have been unrestrained or coercive. So, this is the third point as far as the attributes of God are concerned. The fourth point, which Ustad Ghamidi has mentioned regarding the attributes of God, is that the organization and the management of the world within us and the one outside us is a reality. I mean, this tremendous organization, this tremendous management of the things that we find around us, it's something that we can observe. It cannot be imagined without a being who is living and who can exist for himself, needing no one for his existence, and is also instrumental in bringing others into existence. So this could not have come into being of its own. And without a creator, it cannot be imagined that it could have come into being. And it is precisely to this that the Quranic words that we often have in our minds in the form of the verse of the throne are mentioned. So the words are, on that day, man will have to face God only. God, there is no deity but he, the living, the sustainer, and neither slumber nor sleep overtakes him. All that is in the heavens and the earth belongs to him. Who can intercede with him for someone except by his permission? He knows what lies before them and what is after them, and without his will they cannot grasp any part of his knowledge. His dominion prevails in the heavens and the earth, and their protection does not vary him in the slightest way, and he is the exalted and the glorious one. Clearly, this is something that bears witness to what we have just said. Now, the fifth aspect in this regard is also something that is a bit philosophical, but we have to understand it vis-a-vis the attributes of God. And this is something which has been, explained by a lot of people, but with relation to the Quran and how we have to be in line with it, is something that, again, has its own importance. So the fifth point is that what is time? What is time? Now, it is a concept which emanates from the fact that the Creator, who is living and is self-sustaining, is eternal. He is the foremost and nothing is before him. He is the last and there is nothing after him. He is the apparent and there is nothing above him. He is the hidden and nothing is below him. He cannot be curtailed in time and space. However, his knowledge encompasses whatever is found in time and space. He cannot be curtailed in time and space, but his knowledge encompasses whatever is found in time and space. And this is precisely what is meant by these words, wal awwal wal akhir wal zahir wal batin wa huwa bi kulli shay'in alim. He is the first and the last, the apparent and the hidden. He has knowledge of all things. So this verse actually tells us that time and space are something that are fully encompassed by him. So there is no one before him, there is no one after him, there is no one above him, there is no one below him, neither in time nor in space. As far as time and space are concerned, he has to be understood in this manner. He lies outside of time and space, but time and space are encompassed by his knowledge. The sixth point which Ustad Ghamidi has said in this regard regarding the attributes of God is that any conception of a being without attributes is mere supposition. So if we do not have a conception of the attributes of a person, we just cannot have any knowledge about them. So differences of opinion in this regard are nothing in reality, and the essence of each opinion is the same. So we can say that all worthy attributes like creativity, justice, mercy, compassion, knowledge, and wisdom are validated as the personal attributes of God, and they precede their effect. They precede their effect because the cause of everything precedes effects, isn't that? The cause comes first and then comes the effect. So it is said that even after destruction of this world, the grandeur and majesty of God shall continue to exist with full grace. The grandeur, the splendor, and the grace of God is going to exist the way it is. So that is what is said, that the cause must always be something that precedes the effect. So the Quran points to this in its own sublime style. Kullu man alayha fan wa yabqa wajhu rabbika zul jalali wal ikram. All that lives on earth is mortal, and only the person of your majestic and glorious Lord will abide forever. Now, the seventh point in this regard, which Ustaz has elaborated upon, is that in the understanding of the attributes of God, when we understand, when we comprehend these attributes, the aspect of finesse in them, however, must always remain in mind, because power is praiseworthy only when it is complemented by mercy, affection, and justice. If anger, revenge, rage, fury, and the likes of them manifest against oppression and injustice, then they are commendable. Mercy, forgiveness, and generosity are laudable in their own context. The mention of the attribute of Hamid, something that you find in the Quran so frequently about God. Hamid means someone who's praiseworthy. So whenever you find this word being mentioned, you'll find it being qualified by the word Ghani, which means self-sufficient. He's praiseworthy and self-sufficient. Similarly, the word Hakim, it is often qualified by the attribute Alim or Alim. So Hakim is wise and Alim is knowledgeable. And then Ghafoor, of course, is merciful. And this is often qualified by the attribute Aziz, which is powerful. So all this in the Quran guides us to this very aspect of finesse and poise, that these are not unrestrained. So if he is Hakim, he is also Alim. If he is praiseworthy, he is also self-sufficient. If he is Ghafoor, he is also powerful. So his mercy must not in any way be paid so much attention to that one forgets that he's also powerful. His mercy is also something that is qualified by power and justice as well. So this is actually the point of finesse that is found in these attributes. And towards this, the Quran says, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا وَذَرُوا الَّذِينَ يُلْحِدُونَ فِي أَسْمَائِهِ سَيُجْزَوْنَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Believers, remember that for God are only good names. Call on Him by these names and keep away from those who distort them. And whatever they are doing, they shall soon receive its reward. So clearly we can understand that the aspect of finesse in his attributes must always remain in mind and consideration. The eighth thing which Ustad Ghamidi has pointed out regarding the attributes of God is that whatever conception of God we have, it cannot be devoid of majesty, splendor, and perfection. So, for example, attributes such as Wahid, which means that He's the one and only, and Al-Ahad, which means that He's unique, and As-Samad, which means that He's the rock towards which everyone can find support. Now, what do? They depict perfection. They depict his perfection, that he is Ahad, he is Wahid, he is Samad. Similarly, the attributes of Al Quddus, which means that he is the Holy One, As Salam, which means that he is peace in entirety, and Al Mu'min, which means that he is the giver of peace. If you look at these attributes, they are attributes of splendor. Attributes of Quddus, Salam, Mu'min, they are attributes of splendor. And the attributes of Al Malik, which is the king, Al Aziz, which means the powerful, and Al Jabbar, which means he's the dominant, they are attributes of his majesty. So the attributes of majesty produce fear, respect, and praise in a person. The attributes of splendor produce gratitude and love for him and instill hope in a person. The attributes of majesty are more apparent to his senses than the attributes of splendor are more apparent to his intellect and heart. So you see, all these attributes have their own weightage, they have their own background, and they have to be understood in their perspective. So if God is kept in mind, the attributes of splendor appear more dominant. The attributes of splendor, they appear more dominant. And what are these attributes we just referred to? The attributes of splendor, of course, are Al Malik, Al Jabbar, Al Aziz. So they are much more apparent in this regard. But if a human soul is kept in mind, the attributes of majesty appear dominant. So the attributes of majesty, of course, they appear dominant because they produce fear. And this is how God has created himself, so that we have an eye for all his attributes. And human beings, while fearing God, they leap towards him for this very reason, and they try to seek his refuge with his attributes of splendor. So this is precisely what we find in the supplication of the Prophet when he said, Allahumma a'udhu bika minka. A'udhu bika minka, which means, God, I seek refuge with you from you. I seek refuge with you from you. I cannot run away from you. I have to seek refuge with you. And this actually refers to this very aspect. This is the prayer of the person who is overwhelmed with the love of his Lord. He is apprehensive of his self sufficiency and magnificence. He is anxious of meeting him and submits to all his decisions with full regard. So, viewers, when the Quran says that all gracious names are his, all gracious names belong to God, it actually means that every name which depicts majesty, splendor, and perfection is gracious and can be given to him. And that is what this verse actually says. قُلْ ادْعُوا اللَّهَ أَوِ ادْعُوا الرَّحْمَنَ أَيَّمَّا تَدْعُوا فَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى, which means, tell them you may call him as Allah or Ar-Rahman. By whatever name you call him, his are the most gracious names. And therefore, the conception of God in one's heart should be someone, and this is very important to note, because viewers, as parents, this is something that we teach our children, we teach the next generation. So the conception of God that we have to teach them must be commensurate with all these attributes. So the conception, his perception in our heart should be that he's someone who's kind, he's merciful, forgiving, and compassionate. He smiles and laughs with full sympathy and is gentle. He is the kindest of the kind and the most merciful. He is a person's support and avenges from his enemies on his behalf. This is because one can attain tranquility through him only, seek his nearness, and is anxious of meeting him. Then hallowed is he as well, and is also an embodiment of the truth. So we can say, viewers, that it is logically impossible that he will not differentiate between good and evil, and that someone who is bad, filthy, unjust, antagonistic, one who forbids good, exceeds limits, is skeptical of the truth, and is adamant in opposing the truth, can attain his nearness. Indeed, he is the forgiving and merciful to those who turn to him and adopt what is good and forsake what is evil, who remember his greatness and majesty so that he can give him due regard, who keep humbling themselves before God, keeping in mind that God is self-sufficient and does not need any of his creations, and is grand in his planning and management. In spite of the fact that all his decisions are the very truth and are decked with his relentless mercy, his creations have knowledge of these decisions to a limited extent. Remember, this is something that we have to know. Thus, it is essential that all his decisions be accepted, and people should be happy and content with all his commands and directives. That is the conclusion that can be drawn. The ninth point in this regard, which Ustad Ghamidi has derived, is that the greatness of the Almighty becomes evident from his attributes of perfection. When a person acquires the correct understanding of these attributes, he professes faith in a God who is unique, peerless, and one and only, and one of a kind. He is the rock of shelter for all. To him solely belong the heavens and the earth and whatever is between them. No one shares his sovereignty, and no one is his partner in running the affairs of this universe. There is nothing in this world which is hidden from him, and no part of this world is beyond his jurisdiction or control. Everything needs him, is dependent on him, but he needs no one. He is independent of everyone. Matter, plants, animals, all prostrate before him and are busy in celebrating his praises and in extolling and glorifying him. His power is immense and he is all embracing, and every particle of this universe is subservient to his will. Also evident, dear viewers, from the Quran is that whenever he intends, he can destroy anything at any time, whenever he wants. And of course, this is based on his wisdom. And then he can recreate it and bestow it with honor and humiliation. Everything is mortal, and he is the only immortal. He is beyond what is beyond, yet he is closer to human beings than their life wane. He's beyond from what can be thought of as the most beyond, yet he is closest to us. His knowledge and wisdom encompass everything. He even knows what is concealed in our hearts. His intention supersedes all intentions, and his command supersedes all commands. He is free and devoid of all faults, and is without any blemish and beyond any allegation. So it is precisely to this that this passage of the Quran refers to. It says, all that is in the heavens and the earth gives glory to God. He is the mighty and wise. To him belongs the dominions of the heavens and the earth. He only gives life and he only gives death, and he has power over all things. He is the first and the last, the apparent and the hidden, and has knowledge of all things. It is he who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, then sat on the throne to govern them. He knows all that goes into the earth and all that emerges from it, and all that comes down from the heavens and all that ascends to them. He is with you wherever you are and is aware of whatever you do. He has sovereignty over the heavens and the earth, and to him turn all affairs. He makes the night pass into the day and the day pass into the night, and he has knowledge of what is concealed in the hearts. In this regard, viewers, the 10th point which Ustad Ghamidi has derived regarding the attributes of God is that among the attributes of perfection, the attribute of Tawheed, which is monotheism, it occupies the most importance. It is this attribute of Tawheed which is the most explained and the most emphasized upon by the Quran. So much so, the surah on which the last chapter of the Quran effectively ends, it directs the Prophet to declare this concept of Tawheed in such unequivocal words and with such clarity that we all have these words etched on our minds and on our hearts. So the words are Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid walam yulad, walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Proclaim of Prophet, God indeed is peerless. He is with everyone. He is neither anyone's father nor anyone's son, and there is none like him. So clearly, this is something that can be fully understood. And all efforts of the prophets of God revolve around establishing Tawheed or monotheism in the society in which they are born. Every single word of its history narrated by the Almighty in the Quran, it testifies to this reality, that they are sent in this world so that they can take people out of the servitude of others and make them the servants of the Almighty. They should consider Him only to be their creator and their king, and serve Him and show their obedience to Him only, and trust Him alone. They should seek only His help. They should thank Him solely, when they are blessed with favors and seek His help only, then they will consign themselves. Their love should be subservient and their liking should be subservient to His liking. They should consider Him to be sole and singular as regard as His being, His attributes and His rights, and in no way should associate anyone with Him in these matters, whether this association or this nature of association would be to an angel, a jinn, a prophet, a saint, or any other person, or even their own selves. So, viewers, it is this importance of Tawheed or monotheism on account of which the Quran has explicitly stated that without adhering to Tawheed, no deed of a person is acceptable to God. And if a person accepts or adheres to it, then there is hope that even a sin that he might be guilty of may be forgiven. And about this, the Quran says, "Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi wa yaghfiru ma duna zalika liman yasha wa man yushrik billahi faqad iftara isman azima." God will not forgive that partners be deliberately be ascribed to Him. However, less than this, He will forgive any sin for anyone He, according to His law, wants to. And there is not the slightest doubt that he who associates partners with Him is guilty of a heinous sin. Now, the reason for this, viewers, is that a person cannot remain persistent on his sin if he professes faith in Tawheed. He cannot persist. And if he persists on a sin, he will find that the grace, and, or if we can say that if he happens to, if he stumbles on sinning, if he just happens to stumble, then he will find that the grace and blessing of God will induce him to repent and to seek God's forgiveness. Such a person will surely turn to God and, as such, become entitled to be forgiven before Him on the day of judgment. And for this very reason, the Prophet is reported to have said that a person shall surely be granted paradise if he adheres to Tawheed. The Almighty will not cast such a person into the fire of hell, of course. The argument which nullifies polytheism is that no one has any basis of associating partners with God. That is why polytheism is condemned. At more than one instance, the Quran has demanded from its addressees to present, if they can, any grounds for polytheism, whether based on intellect or on divine sources. Only God Himself could have informed us if He had any associates or not. And the only way to have knowledge of God's will in this regard is His divine books, which He has revealed, or the traditions and narratives which have been transferred generation after generation from His prophets and messengers. None of these contain anything which substantiates polytheism in any way. And it is to this fact which the Quran has actually pointed out when it says, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُم مَّا تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَرُونِي مَاذَا خَلَقُوا مِنَ الْأَرْضِ أَمْ لَهُمْ شِرْكٌ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ إِيتُونِي بِكِتَابٍ مِّن قَبْلِ هَٰذَا أَوْ أَثَارَةٍ مِّنْ عِلْمٍ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. On what support are they showing evasion? Ask them, have you reflected on those whom you worship besides God? Show me, what have they created on this earth, or do they have a share in the heavens so that they be worshipped? Bring me a scripture revealed before this or some other vestige of divine knowledge if what you say is true. So, viewers, other arguments of Tawheed which are cited by the Quran are also very sound and based on established facts derived from knowledge and reason. So, for example, the Quran on one occasion says, "Believers, let them decide, and regardless of what they think, you should now fully understand that your Lord is one God. There is no deity but Him. He is the compassionate, the ever merciful. There is no doubt that in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and in the alternation of night and day, and in the ships that sail in the ocean and with cargoes beneficial to man, and in the water which God sends down from the sky, with which He enlivens the earth after its death, dispersing over it all kinds of living beings, and in the manifestations caused by the winds, and in the obedient clouds that are between the sky and earth. In these are signs for men of intellect to understand this reality." So, whereas again we see that all these signs, they present to us this indubitable reality. And the next part of the verse mentions rain, if you look at the second part, from the heavens, which once again sustains life and vivacity, and once again embellishes the surface of the earth with greenery and with vegetation. So, what then does a deep reflection on all these phenomena lead to? Is this world the battlefield of opposing and conflicting elements in which contrasting and divergent forces always seem to be at loggerheads with one another? Or does there exist an immensely wise and prudent force which reigns supreme over all these opposing elements and wisely uses them to create a systematic order and, and an overall purpose? If such was the case, of course, we know how this could have gone. And that is why the Quran has said that if they claim that there are other gods besides God, they would surely seek to dethrone him. That is something that was clearly very, very evident to them, that they had been one God, they would have uh, tried to dethrone him. And so, at one instance, we know from the Quran, it says that, do you not see that whatever is in the heavens and the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, the mountains, the trees, the beasts, and countless men, all prostrate before God, and there are many on whom punishment has become mandatory because they accepted the humiliation of to submit to others. And in reality, he who is humiliated by God has none to honor him because God does what he intends according to his law. So, cited here is the argument in favor of Tawheed, which is testified by every object of this universe by its very existence. And it's already been alluded to earlier that the sun, the moon, the stars, the mountains, and the animals that tread the earth all follow the divine law in which they have been created or on which they have been created. None of them deviates in any manner. So everything of this universe is immaculate. It has such precision. And the argument in favor of Tawheed is more of a hint and is seldom grasped by logicians, but it has a tremendous value. So, viewers, with this, we come to an end to on the discussion regarding the attributes of God. I know it was a bit technical. Some part of it might be a little bit more. It might need a little bit more elaboration, and of course, it might need a reading or maybe a rehearing of these details as well. But for all practical purposes, today also we end this study of Meezan. It has been to me an absorbing study. It has brought to light, I think, many aspects of the Quran. And to give you this small last bit of explanation, that the Quran itself is something which is based on such wisdom, such sagacity, that when you try to understand it, it is like following something in a way that light is you're drenched with the light, we are drenched with the rain which comes to a person who is thirsty, and he feels that all his claims and all his needs have been answered. So we now come an end to this book, and inshallah, in our subsequent sessions, we will be having a little bit of change of format, which will be, of course, communicated to you. But for the moment, if you have any questions, please raise them.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. Our first question comes from Bismillah Tirmizi Ahmed. Please go ahead.
Alaikum, Dr. Saleem, just a comment on your wonderful session today. There's a documentary out called "The Story of Everything" that talks about that there is it makes a normal mind understand that from the farthest ends of the cosmos to the human DNA, how everything tells you that there is a creator. It's a
Right.
brilliant documentary. It just came out recently. So anybody who's a documentary nerd or it actually, when I went to see it, there were very few people there, but what the Quran tells you, it just talks about that. So any person of faith who wants to understand that how science tells you, the laws of nature tell you that there's a God, from the farthest end to human DNA, it was just mind-boggling. So if somebody wants to see a visual of what you've just said, that's a wonderful thing to watch.
Right. Thank you for
So
that.
yes, just wanted to share that with you because what you are saying is exactly that. At every law of nature, how it screams that there's a creator. So there's no way that there is a Allah. That's what it was all about. It just
Right.
from time to space to matter
Mhm.
to everything else. But thank you for a wonderful lecture. Truly appreciate you. Just wanted to say that and share it with everyone.
Thank you very much, Bismillah. Any more questions? Nashad Shafkat, please go ahead.
Sir, could you just give me 2, 3 minutes because the azan is about to go here and I'm so close to the mosque that I might not be able to communicate and or either hear you. After 5 minutes, Mariam, if you could call on me. Thank you.
Sure, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. People are asking the specific name of the documentary, Bisma. If you could please say the name one more time.
Yes, it's called The Story of Everything.
Everything.
It was just released in the United States for 2 days. Actually, it was released for a week on the bigger screen, and it just had 2 showings a day because obviously nobody wants to watch a documentary anymore. So, but I made an effort to go and see it, and it just blew my mind. So, anybody who's interested, if you can just find out where it's streaming or if it's already played in theaters near you, then you can just, I'm sure, find out where it's streaming, but you've got to watch it. It's going to blow your mind because it explains to you how time, matter, space, and everything that we possess as human beings, our cells to a basic DNA, how a body is, how a child is created. It's very scientifically explained. So it's just brilliant. And it has the biggest scientists that are giving you the explanation. So it's not made by some random person. They're scientists. They're bringing theories of Einstein and of Newton and Stephen Hawking, and they're big scientists in the documentary also, because there's a divide between Darwinism and the theory of evolution and how creation actually happened. So they bring that element also. So for anybody who's interested, it's a must watch. It's called The Story of Everything.
Thank you very much.
So I think
Right.
it'll take time to reach the third world countries.
Likely, but I'm sure it'll be available on streaming
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be available, Dr.
services.
Salim, because it will probably take a little time. But if you can, I'm sure it's going to, because I think they only released it in theaters because they wanted people to stream it.
Yeah.
Because obviously in theaters they don't see an audience for stuff
Right.
like this. So if you can
So
find it
there
somewhere.
is a very similar documentary which is very similar in name. It's called The Theory of Everything. So this is the story of everything. That's called The Theory of Everything.
The Theory of Everything, I think, is a movie that's made on
It's a
Stephen
movie
Hawking's life.
on Stephen Hawking.
Yeah,
Correct. So
that's
that also is, yes. So that should not be confused with
no,
that.
no. So the Theory of Everything is the
Called
story of Stephen Hawking's life. The Story of Everything
right.
is the story of
These are
the universe.
right of the
And
universe.
what was very fascinating to me was the mathematical calculations they give you from the farthest end that has been discovered with the Voyager going off into the farthest end of the cosmos to the human
Right.
DNA, and which you always bring up, Dr. Saneem, when you're talking about this, the human. So the mathematical calculations and everything is so perfect and everything is so balanced that there's no way it was random. That's what
Right.
it keeps telling you. There's no
Could
way
not
this
have
is,
been.
this randomness can't be, it's so perfect. And the balance of even just the Earth being the third planet and how the other planets out there are protecting the Earth because they take the hits for Earth so we can exist. So
Correct.
that is something which kind of blew my mind. I never thought of it that, us being the third planet, it's because the bigger planets like Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus, they're taking hits for us with comets
They're
so we
protecting.
can be
Right.
protected. So
Correct.
that was something that, so everybody must watch it if they can.
I think we'll just need a bit more time, like another minute or two for Nashad Shafkat to be able to ask their question. But in the meantime, if somebody has questions, please raise your hand. Oh, Nashad Shafkat, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mariam. I'm sorry. The azan is so loud here. Sir, first of all, a masterful lecture today. I know it was a little difficult at places, but you handled it absolutely marvelously. I am, sir, concerned about all these perfection in everything. That every attribute of God is perfect in the extreme that we know. I am worried about his being in some places in the translations referred to as revengeful. I am unable to comprehend how can a being so boundless that we cannot even come into our imagination. Be revengeful. I understand being just, punishing those who don't follow his path or misbehave or whatever. But being revengeful is a little difficult for me to swallow. Uh, I don't know if you could possibly alleviate some of my
Uh,
fears about.
I think the best thing would be that if you look up the Arabic word for wherever it has been translated as revengeful, uh, to the best of my knowledge, we don't have any equivalent Arabic word. So the thing which is mentioned in the Quran on most occasions is in Allah Shadidul Iqab, which means that he is stern in retribution. So I think that on occasions, this stern in retribution has been translated as revengeful, which is a negative connotation. So stern in retribution only means that he's not going to allow you to go scot-free for major crimes, like, for example, child molestation, or, for example, rape, or the likes of such crimes, and of course, including polytheism. So when it is said that he stirred in retribution, it means that these idolaters should think that they are not going to win his favor through through the intercession of their deities, that God is going to let them go. So God is stern in retribution means that he means when he says that he is going to implement his justice on people who are criminals and who don't deserve any lenience. So it is in this context that it is said Shadidul Iqab, which actually literally translates as someone who is stern, someone who is strict in retribution.
Yeah, I may be wrong, but I think somewhere you've also translated Ghamidi Saab's.
So that's what I'm saying, that we need to look up that particular, because you see, these attributes, to the best of my knowledge, at times it is more of a question of the translation part that might, for example, yes, now it comes to my mind, Inna Allah Azizun Zuntiqam. So Zu Intiqam means someone who takes revenge. So revengeful, of course. I mean, if you look at it in the Arabic language, it actually means that. Uh, I mean, it's the same as a person who punishes people for their misdemeanor or for their crimes. So zu intiqam, that is, now I remember the word which has been translated on many occasions as intiqam, as you know, is the Urdu word also. It means intiqam means revenge. So it is from Arabic, and it is said in Allah Azizun Zuntiqam, God is powerful and he is revengeful. So revengeful actually is in this sense that people should not take undue advantage of his mercy and think that at last he will be letting go of people who have done or committed heinous crimes against humanity. So he might forgive crimes that have been done against his own self, but he is revengeful in the sense that he will take revenge on behalf of the person uh, who a person offended or who a person victimized. So if you look at it in the right perspective, I don't think that it should raise any questions in this regard.
Right, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Muhammad, you're up next. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Shehzad, today's lecture
Right,
was very comprehensive and I find it very, very beautifully constructed.
thanks.
I would like you expand this lecture and with more, add more references from the Quran and regarding Allah's and God, because this is very important thing. Start from the very basics of human thinking. Because the directions becomes different when you start thinking it differently.
Correct.
Was basically this is my comment. My question is out of the context, so if there is time, I can ask. Otherwise, if you can, and if you have
We
a lot.
currently don't have any more questions, so you may go ahead.
Okay, my question is basically the names mentioned in Quran. Like there are different names like Habil, Kabil, and like Harut, Marut, like Talut, Jalut. My question is, is there any research that are there the real names or they are just mentioned as names? Because I read a comment that they looks very similar, like Talut, Jalut. They are different people, but they are like same. Talut and Jalut and matlab like Habil, Kabil and Harut, Marut. But I like this. This is the question. Ke, are they the real names from the other scriptures also, or they just some Arabic
Mm.
translation?
So,
Or what is?
so you see, Habil and Kabil, they are not mentioned anywhere in the Quran. They are just referred to as two sons of Adam. Watlu alayhim Adam abnai Adam bil haq. So that is how the Quran refers to them without naming them. In the Old Testament, they have been named as Abel and Cain. Similarly, you'll find that there are names which are mentioned in the Quran. So these are Arabic names, the names that are Arabicized to be more precise. So their original names could have been different, of course, because this is how I mean they were in the original scriptures. But we know the earliest of the scriptures, they perhaps that we can comprehend were in Hebrew, which is the parent language of Arabic. So the Torah most probably was in Hebrew, but we know that even before the Torah, we had the scripture of Abraham. So, what exactly was the language of the scripture of Abraham? We are not very sure of. Hebrew is we are pretty sure of was the language of the scripture of Moses, which is the Torah, but we don't have the Torah in that original language as well. So, there are many prophets who are mentioned in the Old Testament in their with their Hebrew names, but they have been Arabicized in other languages. So originally they have passed through. For example, if you look at the New Testament, it was originally written in Greek. So we have the Greek names of people. Even Jesus had a name in Greek, in that language. And since no scripture was ever written in Greek, we have the first writing. Sorry, it was never written in Aramaic or Syriac, which was the language of Jesus. So the first record that we have of writing of the new scripture is in Greek. So from Greek it came into Latin, and from Latin it came into English. So the English version that you read today, of course, has been passed down from various origins. Similarly, if you read the Arabic Bible, and similar is the case with the Urdu Bible. So the origin of these names can be traced back to the original language, which in the case of the New Testament is Syriac, and in the case of the Old Testament is Hebrew. But before that, of course, if you look at the scripture of Abraham, we are not very sure of the language. So, at best, what I can say is in this regard is that these were the names of these entities given to them by God in the Quran. Originally, they were different. They could have been different. And in some cases, we know that they were different.
I mean, in one way, we can say that in Quran, the names are not any. The names were given according to the Arabic taste or something like that. Maybe
No, it
it's
was
like
they were Arab. It's called to Arabicize. You see, Arabicization is itself a linguistic term, which means. Let me give you an example. Uh, in Surah Fil, we know the word Sijil. ألم ترى كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل فأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل. So they used to hit them with stones of sijil. Now sijil actually is a Persian word, sangegil, which means pebbles that are made out of mud. That sangegil became sijil.
right.
Or if you let me tell you, the word admiral, for example, in English is actually Amirul Bahar. The word admiral is something that came from Arabic. The original was Amirul Bahar. Amirul Bahar means the leader of the oceans. So
Mhm.
that transformed into English as admiral. Similarly, algebra. Algebra, if you know, is a branch of mathematics. It is derived from a mathematician whose name was Al Jabr. So he from that it became algebra. You see, when names get transmitted from one language into another, they adopt or adapt themselves to the rhyme and to the structure of that new language. And if we don't have Abraham in the Quran, so in English, of course, he was called Abraham, and even before that, he was called Abraham. In Arabic, we have Ibrahim. but the entity is the same.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, Dr. Saleem. Related to the question, there's a question in the chat that asks, what is Zohar then, which Kabbalists mention? They say it's Old Bible Testament.
What is Zohar?
Zohar. Zohar.
I have not heard this word before. I need to be explained.
So
Um,
if the go ahead.
may I?
Yeah,
Please.
it's your question.
Yeah. So, because I didn't raise the hand. So, if you're listening to any Kabbalist or people who follow Kabbalah, they mention Zohar a lot. Zohar. Either they're
Zohar.
trying to say Torah and they say Tohar, it's just a pronunciation, but they mention, because I've heard about Torah, obviously Bible and Quran, about these scriptures, but they mention Zohar. So I think maybe it's Torah, but they don't say Torah. They say Zohar.
Okay, so I would not be in a position to comment because this is something new to me. I might need to do some research and then get back to you.
I'm sure. Unless it's Tohar, and I'm unable to understand, because then they would have said Torah. Is it Torah in English as well?
Yes, it is. Torah is also used in English, exactly.
No, then this is Zohar,
Torah.
because they say Kabbalah has come actually from the oldest scriptures of Bible. So they use the word
Okay.
Zohar.
Okay. Okay, so you have done your bit of research. Maybe something you can ask from ChatGPT or some other original sources, and they can give you a more precise answer. I'll also try to look it up.
For sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. We are out of time for today's session, but there's one more unrelated question in the chat.
Okay,
If
please go ahead.
Okay, this will be the last question of the day. The questioner asks, seeing someone in dreams sporadically, someone who one couldn't get married to despite this being over a decade later, then suffering due to it. Is this a test, specifically when one is used to seeing many dreams that have come literally true throughout one's life? How do you pass through this severely difficult test at times with no contact with that person whatsoever?
Well, it's just a question of destiny, I guess. It was not meant to be. And yes, this really is like a suffering that you go through. It's a traumatic experience. But always think that these traumas, they become they become part of our psyche, I would say. So because you are close to someone, and this has a tremendous impact on your mind, and your mind registers this impact, and the way that it manifests its feelings, I would say, is through these dreams, that you feel that suffering even more. You see someone that were never able to get connected with, and it's just a form of your own attachment. So your own attachment with that person manifests itself in the form of a dream. This is much like the fact that when someone very close to you passes away, maybe a mother or a father, you keep seeing that person in your dreams. And of course, that person is not there in your dreams. He's in a different plane of existence. But it is our own subconscious self, is that brings out our attachment to that person in the form of a dream. So one thing is that if you are seeing someone that you were attached to and you were not able to get connected to in the way you wanted to, yes, it's a form of a trauma. It's the trauma that you feel is felt when you are alive. I mean, you're not not sleeping. You're awake, I would say, and you also feel it when you're sleeping. So I guess it's a question of time, as they say, is the best healer. You have to divert yourself. You have to think that things happen for the best. You have to think that if things did not happen the way you wanted them to happen, they happened according to God's way, and hence there might be something that you might be missing at this time. And when time passes, if you look back in hindsight, you might think that, well, if something happened in a different way than I wanted it to happen, it was better at that time. So you need to trust God, move on in life, divert your attention, and just think that inshallah you'll find someone better.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem, for concluding this beautiful series and also for another fantastic session. And thanks to all the participants to coming through and spending your time, precious time, watching these series. And I hope we all learned a lot, inshallah. We'll see all each other again in tomorrow's session, textual study of the Quran. Until then, please take care and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.